Welcome to Zentangle Project Pack No.16 and the 12 Days of Zentangle. My name is Rick.
Hi, I'm Maria, and we're going to work on a gray Zentangle, but grab whatever you have.
And appreciate what you have, whatever it is.
Yeah.
These are beautiful, beautiful tiles, and whatever surface you're working with is a beautiful surface.
We're going to use most of the tools that came in your project pack, and also a spoon and a Q-tip.
And a towel.
Dum, da, da, dum, 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 dum. And a towel, yes.
And if you don't have all the materials here, you can play along with whatever you have.
And if you're questioning this, watch it through first to see what we do with it. And,
as well as the introductory video.
Okay. So,
right, this
is my white tortillon, so that's very important to me. So I kind of put that aside so nobody comes near it. And I have a nice dish towel or a face cloth. We had a spoon, and the towel is to add another layer of sponginess. We're going to do some spongy stuff here.
So we're going to be taking things and putting it down on the paper. So
I have a brush and a Q-tip, and you'll need a little bit of water, just a tiny bit. You won't need much. So with our graphite pencil, we're going to draw a multi-sided figure. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a 5 or 6-sided shape. I'm putting some dots down so you won't have to worry about where you're going to go. We're going to do some curves kind of bouncing around.
And you can see they're not terribly even. They're just a wonderful shape.
I don't know. What would you call this shape?
It's very much like the one I did on the box, whatever that, like concave star shape.
Right. So with our scoring device on the big end, the larger ball end, I'm going to press down pretty hard here and just go over these lines.
Yeah.
You can see me straining. Ah!
And it pushes in pretty well because there's that background, which is Maria's blotter, is a little absorbent.
Like Rick says, I like to have a spongy surface to work on. He prefers a harder surface.
Yeah, I like when I'm spinning my tile that it just slides and spins. So just restating that line, but with the scoring embosser there.
So with a little bit of water and a Q-tip, I'm going to paint the inside of this shape, and not so much paint it as wet it. I want it to be it soak into the paper, almost like you're working with paper mache or something. We're going to shape this 6-sided figure.
And this is cotton paper, so the fibers they hold together pretty well, and we're going to get them nice and wet here, so they'll be doing something new. And you're using a gray tile, right?
Yes. And I think you can do it without the water, but I found it to have a different shape that I like better.
Well, it tends to be a little bit more flexible when it's wet.
So I think I'm going to go over this shape so you can see what I'm doing, in case you can't see the folds here. But you probably don't have to.
Right, this is just for the camera.
For the camera.
Yeah. And the paper does get much softer when it's wet.
Right.
Like think of, newspaper or something.
Yeah. So I got my spoon, and I'm just going to start in the middle and go out to the edges and kind of go around and around and around and kind of push it into that towel.
And like the spoon up to the edge there.
Yeah. It's kind of it was a fun project. I liked doing this.
How'd you come up with the idea?
I did this on a project once before in Pendragon.
Ah.
I can't remember what it was. I think you can see this puffing out.
Nice.
I'm doing it with my my fingernail now.
Much more precise, right? Neat. Oh, that's interesting. So it makes it even a more defined edge there.
I love this tool. I know I'm going to use it forever and ever. I can't believe I lived without it.
So it's like the theme of this whole series is dimension and adding dimension or working with dimension. And so these are all these little ways that to take 2 dimensions into 3 dimensions. And if you don't have the project pack, of course, you can use whatever you have with you and take inspiration from it. You can definitely get them from the store or from a CZT in your area.
And if you don't have any of these tools, you can work flat and just follow along with us with the tangling. So if any way you go, you're going to win.
Yeah. It's like going to a wonderful buffet. You don't have to eat everything, but you can find something you like. All right. Maria just loves going back and adding a little touch after a little touch. And just playing with it. And there's this lovely interaction whenever I watch her tangling that it's like a two-way communication between her and the tile and her. And I think you're doing this just so we can all...
So we can see it.
Yeah. So you don't need to do this. I think her idea was that, in case you couldn't see the edge that well on the camera, but this came out pretty good.
So it's still a little damp. So what I thought we would do is start with tangling the outside before while we wait for the inside to dry. And I'm working with the PN, and I'm pressing pretty hard because I like sometimes to do borders that are a little more intense. They almost work like that tool, the scoring
the
device.
debosser, right?
Yeah, and the PN has a pretty strong nib, and I am heavy-handed, to say the least, with my pens, and this one here has served me well. So we're going around with a second aura up close.
And still very strong line, but like a very tight aura here.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that has a really nice tailored look, like you're top stitching or something, from... look at that.
Well, as it dries, you can continue to, define that.
If I could show you what it looked like on the side, it really is puffed up. So I'm going to go with a lighter hand. You can see the line is lighter. I'm almost just tickling the paper with the same pen.
And a wider aura.
Right.
So I love this introduction of contrast here.
So a little Knightsbridge around it always adds a little fun. To me, it makes me smile the minute I do it. It takes away the seriousness of the whole thing. I don't know what it is about it, but because I've seen formal dining rooms and living rooms with checkerboards, and it didn't bring smiles, but this always does for me.
And it's a beautiful rhythm to get into.
Yeah. It's funny, I can see those moon pies over on the left. near my fingers.
Oh, right.
And
On
they're
the
like
background.
Looking at me.
Right.
Look at that.
Right. This is coming nice.
Isn't it
Very
neat?
subtle. Very
Yeah.
subtle. So again, an aura.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have two different patterns next to each other, if you separate them by an aura, they have a presence about themselves that doesn't get lost in touching the two patterns.
Mm-hmm.
So the aura is often a really, really important part.
So we're going to do a sort of a quasi border, but not really a border. An ornamentation using poke leaf, which is another one of my really favorite patterns. And I put this little detail in there that has sort of a wood cut to it. I love this heart-shaped leaf. Look at that. It's just, isn't it gorgeous? I want to see a tree with a leaf like that.
But that little last twist there of the folded leaf is very sweet.
And they're pretty big. You can see, usually when we do poke leaf, it's part of a pattern. They're kind of tiny, but we're going to be able to just really go all out. It's probably the size of my thumb if you look at it. Add that little turn of the side. I'm going to do that on every point.
Nice.
Now we're going to put one each to the right of each leaf and coloring in the interstices as we go along. It's almost like going around a clock, huh?
So I like how you're doing this is instead of doing the whole cluster at each point, doing one and going around and then doing the next thing and going around.
What that allows you to do is balance things off as you go along, as opposed to trying to make it balance with the initial cluster.
Right, so we've got two on each one. And
Yeah, now I'm going to go out on the other side. You can see how poke leaf so elegantly kind of folds into patterns and spaces. That's why I like working with it, and I'm sure it's why ancient manuscripts use them so often, because they were so malleable. Look at that, with the three on each end.
And I love the naturalness of that uneven six-sided shape there.
And you can see the light on the center.
Right.
Isn't that pretty? It's almost like lit up. So we're going to go in again with
Yet another.
going towards the center. So it's a border and it isn't a border. It's like sort of a border.
Well, it's supporting that inner area so beautifully. Nice. And you can see the difference of not having figured it out, like what you're doing now. If you had done each node by itself, you wouldn't be able to do what you're doing here.
Right.
And then the interstices, and now you can see how the role that aura is playing to separate the poke leaf from the Knightsbridge.
So you can see on this particular one, we're going to be able to make a leaf going in one direction, but not the other, because it's maybe a smaller space, or But it doesn't matter. Nobody's counting. Nobody's worried.
Well, and it's very natural. It's like how a plant might actually grow on something like that.
Look how pretty that is.
Beautiful.
We're going to aura around these beautiful leaf shapes.
And you'll see the role that the aura-ing will play when we start, or when Maria starts to add the graphite. I love the highlight on that center part there.
Look at that, isn't it pretty?
The light looks so nice.
And it also gave the paper a different texture.
Right, it smoothed it. Well, it took on the
texture of the towel,
right.
Maybe, I'm not sure, but it's kind of cool.
And this is a beautiful example of how you can use aura, and you never know what the shape is, because if you were to aura that again, it would be a completely different shape.
Okay, so with our silver jelly roll, we're going to just add a background behind these leaves. And if you imagine a circle pretty much in the middle, you're going to want to kind of have your lines coming straight down at you from the center. And again, with these little wiggly lines, it makes a very cool texture. And and they don't have to be consistently wiggly, just consistently inconsistent.
Sort of like rain inspired.
Right, yeah. What's that tangle we do like that?
Rain.
Well,
oh, mist.
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 Close to rain.
Close to rain.
Yeah.
Exactly. And again, you can see the role that the aura played. Otherwise, you would have had to do those lines right up next to the poke leaf.
It just would have been different. I mean, I can see it going both ways, but it's just different. I love aura. It's an unexpected detail. It's so easy. So again, I'm going to go to that middle section. You know, think about the dot in the middle and have the line sort of perpendicular from the dot, or
like rays radiating.
Radiating from the center.
Yeah. And that odd sparkle that she tosses in there by lifting up the pen. So all those little touches you can do. And you can see she's just doing it to one side, not doing the whole thing yet.
There's a reason. So you get those lines.
Because you can put some other
We're
shape
gonna
in
put
there.
some other details in there. And also, by the time you get around, instead of going to the left and smearing these
Right.
pens don't dry as fast as the microns, and you need to give it a little bit of time to dry.
And also notice, you can probably tell how light a touch she's using on the jelly roll pens.
So I threw a little printemps in there, or a little bijou, if I'm not sure. But we're going to throw in a couple of little details that are fun.
And what I like is the gap between whether it's the spiral or the line, there's this consistency of texture. So it's sort of like a figured maple grain pattern, or bird's eye maple, or something like that. Those lovely little wood patterns. I like it. It's a nice use of this gold jelly roll too.
Yeah.
Silver.
Okay, so we have this beautiful background now. It's subtle. I like that. We're going to work on the inside here. I'm going to put my center line off center, which makes no sense at all, and we're going to radiate some lines like spokes in a wheel and go to the corners.
And obviously a fairly light touch on this.
Yeah, because you don't want to push down too much on this puffy part. By the time we drew the outer drawings, the inner stuff was dry.
Right.
Adding a little love here.
A little rounding in there.
Yeah.
Just that little
So
bit of contrast.
What this did was it gave us 6 triangles, and we're going to do bales inside these 6 triangles, and we're going to make it look like this 6 big fragments.
Right.
So like you're doing Tripoli.
Right. So it's like, is this bales? Is it Tripoli with a fragment? But either way, it's these lovely rice shapes that are that form when you do that arc on either side.
Mm-hmm. And now we're doing it on the edges.
Turning your tile, and Maria's restating the fold there. A little bit of takeoff and land.
Pretty.
Right?
So again, we're going to restate those lines on each side.
And it's sort of like we had another name other than tethered aura. We came up with another name, wasn't it?
I don't remember.
We'll have to figure that out.
Tethered. It's starting and stopping on the same line.
Right. But just adding it incrementally all around instead of doing each individual one. And that's a personal style, like how Molly says she likes to shade and use the tortillon back and forth throughout the tile. Other people like to put all the graphite down at once and then go back and use the tortillon. You know, it's like, do you draw your orbs clockwise or counterclockwise? Well, explore both ways. And then on the bottom. And you know, the fact that it is off-center, it looks even more natural, right? I love that.
So we're going to put in these little black beads. And you can see I'm working with the Micron 01. Sort of leaving the center white. It reminds me of when you open a pomegranate and you see those beautiful jeweled red seeds inside.
Right? And so it's a great amount of contrast too. So you've got these areas with more ink and less ink next to each other.
I wanted that to sort of pop, and these seed-like things like this kind of bring it out.
That's looking nice.
So we're going to go in with the graphite pencil, pretty intense on the edges of this floral center, staying within that restated line.
Right, and just sort of layering it up.
Going around the center so that kind of reseeds.
Reseeds.
And with the magic tortillon, I'm going to soften it up, and again we're going pretty soft because we don't want to push that puffy part in too much. And it stayed quite nice throughout.
I think once it re-dries, it holds the new shape.
Right.
Fun.
Look at that.
Right?
Pretty, huh?
And around the center.
I'm adding a little of that in thatching that we've done in the past, just to give it some more depth in the middle. And these are light lines we don't usually do sketchy lines like that, but this has that. It gives it a totally different look. I'm going to add some graphite, like in the crevices between the leaves where they come together.
Right over the silver.
Right over the silver.
Right up to that aura line. Almost looks like it was like you cut out the leaves from a magazine and then put them on the paper. Put it on the tile. Nice. And then pointing the tortillon, holding the tortillon at a low angle, and then pointing the edge, right up to where you want that to be, so nice and crisp.
I'm giving those little leaf turnings, just a little shade, just for detail.
Another really subtle little contrast. And again, you can see how the aura around the leaf keeps it really distinct from that background.
So I'm going to add some dark. Now look closely. Thank you, Rick. I'm adding the pencil only to like half of the stripe. I'm going to try to hang on to some of it. Is that a joke? It gives it a really cool dimension. You can see I'm not shading it in over the white. You want to keep that distinct if you can. There's a reason for it, and it just adds this. It makes it look like this is really digging in. Or it's maybe more of a piping than a flat surface.
Right. Looks like that, like a piping, right? And yet just inviting the graphite into the paper makes such a difference. Mm-hmm. And that center medallion now is just floating.
Right. So here's that magic white chalk pencil. Oh, look at that. Just that one strip there, right over the black.
And a nice point on the pencil there. Very subtle detail, but man, does that change the character.
Right.
Right? All of a sudden it's glossy and three-dimensional and...
So you'll learn how much pressure you can put on these pencils. It comes with practice.
And breaking the tips.
And breaking the tips, yeah. That's what the sharpeners are for. You learn how to sharpen pencils.
Right.
You want it pointy, not too pointy, yeah?
Nice. And you can always add more graphite.
Yeah.
That's part of like looking at the tile, reacting to the tile, and then adding something that you might not have thought of before, that's really your inspiration and not just copying something else.
Pretty, huh?
Nice.
Ah, look at that.
Right, just a little touch. Look at it pop those out.
Yeah. Little opportunities every once in a while.
That's the type of thing that wasn't planned, yet in the moment it's like, oh, let's do that, let's try this. Oftentimes that's why the so-called mistakes are so wonderful, because it's an inspiration out of necessity to try something you hadn't planned. Fun.
I really enjoyed doing this tile. It had some unexpected turns, and that center thing, I love what it did. I wish when you see it in person.
Right, and you'll see yours, and you'll see the light, like at the end of the day, coming in, and the lovely shadows and highlights that it creates. Beautiful.
And this was my prototype. It's a little bit different. You can see different things that I did, that I didn't do on the first one. It's a little bit different in the middle. So even though I was reproducing something I did, it still didn't come out. Oh, look,
Right.
You can see the puff. You can see that puff.
And I think you have one more.
Yeah. I think that was the first one I did. It was done on a tan tile, I think.
So thank you so much for playing with us. We will see you tomorrow or we'll see you the next day for day 6, and have fun.
See you later.
Bye now.
Bye.